Hi there, it's Memory from Friends Abroad Relationship School, and this is episode 33 of Trauma on the Screen. We had messed up because I hadn't told Judith that I was leaving the screen for a minute, so we thought there might be a short duration where there might be nobody available. So basically, this is a very good film that portrays trauma on the screen, and it really is about a few themes that we will delve into. I hope Judita will be joining again in a bit. So there you are, Judita. If you request to be added, and I can add you again. Sorry about this. Okay, couldn't add guests. Let's try again. Close. Okay. If you request to be added, hi Michelle, and I can add you, Judita. And if you fail, try to just change the landscape of your phone. Just change the position of your phone. Sometimes you need to do that first. Okay, let's bring you to the camera. It's saying unable to add, so you might need to turn your camera or maybe come off and then come back again. That's sometimes can help when you renew your session. So I will start once again as we had started before. So the first theme that I would like to us to discuss today, yeah, it's saying that you can't join Judita, so I'm not sure what's going on at the moment. The first one is single parenting, and let's see. Yeah, it's saying something about technical issues. I'm not sure what's going on. So basically, the film starts with a married woman who then oh, I can't add. I don't know what's going on here. I can't add you. You might need to actually come off Facebook completely, and then you need to come back again. Otherwise, because it's got you there already, but then waved, but you're not there. You're there, but not there. Let's see if Michelle can be added. but whether she wants to be added or not is another thing. Good. Yeah, shall we come back again, Judita? Do you think we can start again? Because I can't add you. We might need to start again. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there we go. Okay. We might get there in the end. Hello again. Yeah, I had to come off because I thought that because I didn't warn you, there was a parcel coming through the door. So I didn't want to disturb you. I just thought you'd continue talking. Yeah, sorry. So okay, let's start together. Then we can just cut the video from the start when I will edit it. Yeah. So the first theme that I picked up with this great movie is single parenthood. And what we just do is we go through, themes. I've got single parenthood, I've got priorities, I've got parenting, on its own, parenting approaches. And then I've got relationship problems and so forth. We can just look at other things, at some point. But this lady was initially married, and then there was a relationship breakdown. Her husband left Flo and left her with a young child. And you can see there's another theme that I picked up also. It's formative years. When the husband left, the child was in a formative years, the most important years of a child's attachment, isn't it? And so the mother was trying to be protective towards the child by trying to hide their grief, but the child could see that. And as I was saying before we cut off, sometimes we try to hide how we feel, but children can pick that up. It doesn't matter how subtle we are. It doesn't matter how much we do things privately. I've spoken to people before who have said that, well, my child doesn't see what I'm doing. And I say they do. they notice, they can pick up cues of body language. And if you are also unhappy or happy, your child knows that.
I remember that from my own childhood, actually, where my parents, my mother tried to conceal some things, and I could see through it so easily. And I was amazed how she thought that I couldn't pick up on it.
That
so
is
I can
true.
relate. Yeah.
And
yeah.
what did you do? What did you do to cope with that? Because this is what this child was doing. She was trying to hide the fact that she could see your mom's grief. What did you do yourself around that issue?
I don't know, like I'd have to think about it. I really don't remember, but I probably, yeah, I probably did, outperform, or maybe I was trying to entertain her, or like.
Yes. You were responsible. You felt responsible for her happiness, and a child will try to make you happy. There are some children who become very humorous, and they look sometimes at comedians. Some of them started back, home to try to make parents happy because parents were not happy, and that can happen because we are in denial. We tend to deny our emotions if there are things happening in our home environment, and then we develop strategies that are similar to the way that we try to survive. And that's exactly what this young child did to cope in this environment. So what then happened is that in the end, the mom decided that she wanted to move to America, and they moved to America. And of course, she was very protective towards a child. When she noted that there was a boy who was interested in a daughter, she had to make sure that she was around her daughter more, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was definitely overprotective. That was very obvious.
Yeah. And then she goes and gets a job in the Klasky's, John and her wife, and his wife, sorry, Deborah. And this is where the story starts. And so we have Deborah. What did you think about Deborah, Deb?
I must admit, Modesty, I was really confused. I immediately thought there was something going on with this woman. She didn't make sense. She was erratic. She was like, I really couldn't figure out what's going on. And I Googled, I read through the synopsis to figure out what are they interpreting her as. And then I read some comments, and so, that I cheated a bit to kind of understand. But I picked up on those clues that, she was just so much in pain. She was constantly seeking validation, and I could see that, that's what I read and that I could very clearly see. Attention, she was very egoistical. She was doing completely wrong, like socially inappropriate things. It felt like she's doing odd things, something that is not kind of not respecting other people's boundaries. But she was really unwell. I think it was clear, especially in her relationship with his husband. Also, she was really unhealthy towards her daughter. So this woman was really unwell, and she kind of like has somehow drawn into her chaos everyone else, or into her like world, or like her needs and validation, and competitive as well, over competitive, and perfectionist, and but really unwell. I think when she had a breakdown with where her mother, the grandmother was, and her mother was comforting her and kind of telling her advice, that's near the end of the movie. That's where it's even more clear, when she breaks down, and there's like a confession, an accusation, really, of the childhood trauma that she was going through, and blame towards her mother, that you understand the origins of, you know, why she is maybe the way she is today.
Yes, and that is very important, because sometimes we look at people and we jump to conclusions, you know, that, you know, maybe they are like this, like that. Yes, they are. We can see the behavior, that it was mostly inappropriate. You know, she was sort of too self-focused, self-absorbed, if you want. And also she was too competitive, as you said, and also into externals. She really liked this pretty girl. It was very important to her. She really liked this girl because she was very good at reading, at doing this, at accomplishing, you know, stuff. But she didn't realize that this girl might have managed to do that because of her environment, of maybe a mother being supportive, and she could have done the same for her daughter Bernice. You see, but she had to run to this girl because this girl was a model child as far as she was concerned. Because she,
and that was, that was very painful to watch, because she had the same age daughter that was being ignored, shoved, you know, like undermined, and her self-esteem. I mean, really, really bad behavior. I don't know another term, because her daughter was suffering, and
but we can recognize, this is why we do this analysis, because we need to recognize the impact of trauma. She did say to her mother was promiscuous and all wild in this woman's formative years. And she knew very well that's what had affected her. But knowing that, I would actually have thought with the kind of money they had, she could have gone and sought therapy, because for her to recognize the word formative years, I'm sure she knew something. And what she needed, Debbie, was therapy. She had debilitating anxiety. She couldn't sit still. She was always on the go. And I think there were so many messages going through in her head. So much chaos. So that's a very important part of the film, about, you know, parenting for herself and also for the other children, and the way that they were raising children together as co-parents, as people who are parenting together. They had different parenting styles, and as she said clearly and importantly, they were not parenting from the same page.
Yes, I picked that up as well. It was very conflicting, actually.
And we do that thinking that because the thing is, we do this thing, many of us, but we don't recognize that actually we are being toxic ourselves, because we want to look good to the child, but it's not about us, it's about the children. Rather than him going to talk to his wife about what to do with the children, he was very supportive of the children, but they could have sat down to decide together how to go ahead. And she pointed out, good guy, bad guy. You see, she painfully recognized that. And she was also in some way discouraging. Thing is, she had some form of tough love, but she knew what was best for the children, but she didn't know how to go about it.
Yeah, I agree.
There was, you know, because of her chronic stress, of lack of self-parenting herself, it was impossible for her to give someone else what she didn't have. That's what I picked up. Because for you to be able to parent, despite the books, maybe she got all these things from the books. She said she had read so many parenting books. Despite the books that she had read, she didn't realize that it's not the book that teaches you on its own. You have got to have it in you and develop in you. This is what I say in our community, that in order to parent, you don't really need parenting lessons, you need self-parenting lessons. Because when you parent yourself and develop that inner peace, contentment, and satisfaction, you are not going to gravitate towards chaos. So how you parent your children will reflect your inner states.
Yeah, yeah. That she was definitely, you know, coming from a place of lack, and there was this, like I felt a desperation, you know, uh, of her. And she just wasn't well in her own skin, in her own, you know, she was focusing too much on the externals, and it's just really, it was a heavy movie actually to watch. I thought it was more of a comedy, but yeah, to me it didn't seem like a comedy at all, because there was trauma in every character, and the children were being traumatized through the inability of through the unhealthy approach of the parents and the other people.
Yes.
So yeah.
I like the point you have raised, that she was externally focused. I did pick that up earlier, but do you know why we become externally focused? Oh, I'm an achiever. She wanted to talk about a company to flow and all that. And she actually felt like it made her less than, not being, you know, not working, sort of, because there was a question that she had to herself when she explained about a company. And what happens is, when we are focusing on externals, I can achieve this, I've achieved that, I've got this, look at me. The thing is, we are trying to avoid focusing inwards. There is something in there we need to address, but it's really painful to address. So we have to sort of distract and find other things where we can say, look at me, look at that. People can see that. And the problem is also society is to blame for that. Because when people see someone who's accomplished in some way, you know, a rosy marriage or a car or a house or a doctorate or all that, people are like, wow, but they don't really look at someone's character and say, wow, this is amazing. They don't do that when you have worked, you know, on from the inside out. And that is society to blame for that. So she had to, you know, to use whatever she could use to make herself feel a bit, you know, like better, although she didn't feel better, or to look better, in other words.
Yeah. Also with people who boast about themselves, I finally understand.
Yes.
Because I've met few individuals that, you know, they're doing it over the top, and I always wondered, but why, you know? Yeah. And as you said, also, as we've seen in the movie, also this well, through her, you know, her what importance she gave to all these external things, to appearances, to her abs, and working out, and the schooling, and the girl, the pretty daughter. Yeah.
Exactly. And with their daughter, I think they could both have supported their daughter to lose weight. I know she had a point there where she might have wanted to support her daughter, but it's again the way to go about it. You know, to support her with meals, you know, and also to make sure that maybe support her with, encourage her to exercise in a way that's helpful for her. And that is helpful, but it's just the way she was going about things that didn't help. And consequently, I think the daughter felt attacked all the time by a mom. So each time a mom did something, I don't think she really even sort of wanted to give it a minute, because it's like when the mother brought those clothes, or she looked at what the size, she didn't even bother to try those clothes, you see. Yeah. And she just felt, you know, down, and felt that was not fair, but she didn't even try the clothes on first. There are some clothes which are loose fitting, you know, and some might have fitted her, but she didn't even try. So that's also very important. It's because of a relationship trigger. The relationship she had developed with her mother was already negative. So she just had to look at what her mother did in a negative way, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the adjustment to the clothes that Flor did, I thought, well, that's such a sign of fixing. You know, she's a fixer. She's trying to, you know, I mean, it's a very nice gesture she made. It was a very kind gesture, but actually it was like, you know, trying to please and to kind of fix, you know, things. Yeah.
You are going to be interested on what I picked up with Flo around that. it's nice that you pick that up. And oh, you see, the thing about it is there was entitlement there on, you know, with all parties, all those parents, because she did that to someone else's child, and she didn't think to say, no, let me do this, and then talk to the mother and just say, you know what, I fixed those clothes, you know, she's just going to wear them. But then she hit the roof when this couple, you know, took a child out and gave a child money and all that. So for her, they couldn't do that to a child, although, yeah, it was too extreme to go and have someone else's child, die,
Yes.
although it wasn't permanent. Oh, that was ridiculous, to be honest. But she had double standards. And then John gave Christina some money, and then she was really off about that. But she also had done this, which is really important. Sometimes we need to stop and really reflect on what we do before we point fingers. And this is why most of the time, you know, we need to step back in situations and not see the log or the speck in someone's eye, because we might have logs in our own. You see, this is what she didn't think about, what she had done.
It's what she didn't see about her own behavior that was so obvious actually for us as viewers, but it's like that part of our, what is it called, like the Johari window, you know, the things that you know about yourselves, the things that you are in denial with.
Unknown.
And
so yeah, that is very true, that we tend not to recognize what we do, and you know, and the impact of our behaviors on others, because each and every one of us, most of the time, we want to be called the good guy, but anyone else. And this is why you were asking the other day, this is why people like labels. Because if someone calls someone labels, it's got so much impact. That person looks really terrible, but I am the good guy and I am the victim. You see, I suffered so much at their hands. But if you really look closely in such situations, you will find that most of the time there is a lot going on underground that you didn't pick up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
So,
shortcut. Of course, labels are shortcuts for us to make sense of the world, but it's much more complex than. and as you said, I think that's also quite powerful. Especially in this in terms of you know, relationships and personalities and mental health. It can put, I mean, I think of there's a lot about narcissists, and she even calls herself, you know, when she's having a fight with her husband, she says, am I a narcissist? Or, you know, like it's easy to label, and then it kind of puts you as a good guy into the good guy or like victim role. That's very powerful.
And you raised a good point, because that husband, despite how seemingly calm he was quite toxic, John.
As well, yes.
Because number one, he wouldn't have ended up staying with such a woman if he didn't have his own issues. They were the right fit. You know, you get someone who's the right fit for you, no matter what. If you stay with them, you are a right fit. There is something that you are giving and taking, you know, between the two of you in that relationship. And so you could see that he was not very confident. And he wanted to water down his accomplishments because he didn't have that much confidence, and also self-esteem issues, honestly. And then there was this thing which really I picked up a bit later when I rewatched the film, the fact that he was actually conflict avoidant. What he was trying to do was, in his calmness, he wouldn't really respond to the questions appropriately or situations appropriately. He would just, you know, sort of give a pat on the back and just be cool about it and then move forward. And then people would call this woman crazy, but actually it was driving him mad because nothing was getting resolved.
And this is what what was on my mind actually when we went to discuss him, because in so many movies we had this stereotyped kind of relationship where the woman is the mad one, you know, hysterical and anxious, and you know, and the man is, oh, he's so calm and he's so cool and collected. But it's often not often. I mean, you know, it's co-created, so they're feeding off each other, and there are issues that are not so obvious with the man usually in these kind of stereotypical portrayals.
But you could see a mother and the way that your mother was, and she looked for a mother. She looked for someone like your mother, almost in some way, because he was unavailable to some extent. You know, they were both unavailable, really, emotionally unavailable.
Mm. You mean the guy, John was looking for? No. Deb was looking for someone in her partner as her mother.
She was trying to fix your mother, in somebody, and that was John.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because the mother too. I mean, my gosh, I mean the way she's portrayed. I mean, it's obvious that she's alcoholic, and you know, then immediately I thought, okay, this is codependent. You know, like codependency inherited from that kind of pattern, probably, yes. And other issues as well. And no, it was interesting also how she just kind of related to her daughter when the crisis hit, you know, when John went off and was seemingly leaving her. And I thought that was an interesting encounter as well between the two of them.
And the mother luckily was there to notice what your daughter was going through, and consequently had to rescue or support your daughter, because she found out. And even though Deb, you know, sort of told you that it was her fault, but the mother told you that those lessons were now coming in handy for her. And and she had to stop what she was doing when her mother told her, because she didn't realize. And this is actually one word that I could describe Deb with, is unconscious. She was very unaware, because she was busy galloping off with another man, you know, not realizing that she's losing her marriage. I mean, how do you do that? You only do that and get away with that kind of thing when you're unaware and unconscious. Because when you wake up, you can recognize that by having an affair, my relationship is going downhill. And this is what many people, you wonder what they are thinking, but you've got to understand, anyone who betrays their relationship, no fault of their own, it's trauma, but it's unconsciousness.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Because if you think about the consequences, if you really want your relationship, you think about consequences. And if you feel like, well, I don't think I want this relationship, you live first, and then you do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But
so it's I think about consciousness and responsibility, actually.
But responsibility comes with consciousness. You have to be aware to be responsible. You basically need to be aware. And then we've got Flo with their daughter, and she sort of got into this situation, which was really sad, because their daughter ended up entangled in her poor decisions, poor judgment. Because this is a woman who came into a situation which she could really see, and being a third party, she could have detached and just focused on her work. But she got embroiled and entangled with John. And then that had to stop her daughter from going to a good school, because those were separate issues. Despite the misunderstandings, Debbie could still have sent her daughter to school. It wouldn't have mattered, you see. But this is what we do. We bring our issues into an issue, and then everything just gets confused and convoluted, and the poor child suffers, because that child is going to be traumatized by that situation.
I thought that was a very a traumatic moment for her at the very end, right? Where Claude, the mother, kind of tells her that she, you know, that she can't go to that school anymore and that they're leaving the house. And then remember, I think it's Christina, right? The daughter. She publicly shames, and actually says it as she narrates the past, you know, what happened. She said, I publicly shamed my mother, and even then she was like pretending nothing is, you know, to save her face because of her facade and, you know, embarrassment and all that. And but she gets through to her, and she changes her mind about it. But it was definitely, yeah, it was definitely a traumatic situation for both of them, especially for the daughter, because it just seemed cruel and, you know, unreasonable.
It was, and the thing about it is, as we were saying, the child feels responsible for the parent because she has to take a parent's side, even if it's not the right side. She has to take the parent's side because that's the only person she's got. Her father is back in Mexico, and she's in the middle of you know, of a jungle in the United States, you know, where she, like, by jungle I mean it's an unfamiliar place. There are strangers there, and so she's got nobody but her mother. So she's just got to follow her mom and sort of you know, make peace with her mom's decision, which was pretty sad. And that also indicated that she didn't give a child a choice. And we do struggle with that, with our authoritarian parenting, where we don't give children choices.
That's another theme, I guess, going back to the parenting approaches that we discussed earlier on.
And then priorities. There's this thing that happened at the start of the film where Flo came with her cousin for the interview, and then the cousin hits the window, and then what's her name? Dad comes in and she gives her $20, you know, and instead of attending to the wound, she's talking about, you know, about decorating and about $20. And again, that's, you can see a chaos and unconsciousness. And so, and then the focus on looks also is a priority rather than focus on a daughter and support her. And also, there's one other thing that, you know, that I picked up. Flo had been in the United States for 6 years, but she couldn't speak English.
Cultural integration,
and that can be quite a challenge, isn't it? I mean, English is just a language, just like any other language. We all have our mother languages. But if you are in a country, I think you can learn to speak the language to, you know, to get by. You know.
It's a theme actually that I had on my list as well, and I mean, it's also about the flexibility of character, you know, openness to new experiences, and I mean, Flor has a very kind of rigid personality, and that's shown through her parenting style. So I wouldn't have expect her to be open-minded to you know, learn about a new culture and a new language. But then at the end, she does. I mean, she is, but after a long time, and I think the daughter is very happy about that and kind of saying, finally, she's learning the language.
Exactly. That's very important, though. When you move to another country, I think it's important to just understand the basics of a language and to be able to speak a language, and you know, where possible, right? But you know, sometimes we go over the top. That's why I don't put importance in things like that. We go OTT with you need to speak English, you know, fluently and all that. No, not really. You need enough English to get by, you know, to communicate with people. That's all you need. If you've got your language, it's equally important, but it's important that you understand the people we are communicating with if you are living in an environment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then relationship issues, that's another theme. So number one, the issue of not sitting down to discuss issues in the relationship, thinking that touching his wife was enough, you know, and being calm and not addressing issues. And then the moment that I saw a red flag sort of going up, that things were going downhill, was when she was infuriated by his touch. When you start to feel infuriated by your partner's touch, I think that's a sign that things are not going well now. So that was what was going on. I don't know what happened to Judith there. Maybe she'll come back. So it's important to recognize that. And then, their bedroom marathon was kind of weird. And again, it could have been something to do with communication and with Deb's, anxiety, I think. And then after that, she would start to get depressed and she would start crying. So that was really significant in there. And then they were starting to drift apart. And when they were starting to drift apart, the husband was now starting to react. Where he used to be really calm, his trauma was now coming out. His emotions were starting to come to the surface. So that's what happens when most of the time we hide our emotions, and then we realize at some point that we can't suppress our emotions. They need to be demonstrated. They need to be expressed. And then infidelity, what it means to different people. We have a situation where John asked his wife, okay, Judith, thank you so much. John asked his wife whether she had slept with the other man. After 11 months, she told him that she was having an affair. And then he's asking about sleeping with the man. But the thing about it is we tend to look at infidelity as involving sleeping together only, but infidelity can be more than that. There's emotional cheating, there's physical, there's all sorts of cheating out there. And it's important that we recognize that they are equally impactful. But to him, that deed was more damaging than just an emotional cheating. And then we have him. He was already showing signs that he was attracted to Flo, and she also was showing that she was attracted to him. And the thing is, they were doing this while he was in a relationship. So that's quite concerning, because Flo seemed to be attracted to emotionally unavailable people. In a bar, a pub, where men wanted to buy a drink, she didn't want that drink, but she was now trying to connect with a man whose relationship she could see and doing itself in front of her. And that was a bit concerning in terms of values and boundaries. You've got to take yourself away from such situations. She could just have been there to do her job, but she was now trying to fix. And this comes back to the situation I was trying to talk to Judith about when she said Flo was a fixer, because she found this man. He is struggling in a relationship, and she thinks that she might give it a go. And that's a fixing attitude, where she is probably thinking that she can fix this man into being a faithful man to her, a better man to her than he was to his wife. And then the other thing with Debs and John is that she wanted to talk, and this is important in relationships. When something happens that undoes the relationship and you tell the other person, it is important to take time away from each other, especially when there's infidelity. And it is a good thing that Deb's mom was able to give her that advice, because she told her to wait, because Debs wanted to talk to her husband and discuss what had happened, but that was not the time. After telling someone you've been cheating on her, you need to give them space to go and think through what they need to do. You actually need to be apart, because for her to do that, she had some reasons for doing that, and for him, he needed to deal with that, with her reasons, and then decide whether he wanted to come back or not. That was very important, because when you pressure someone after such a situation, they either run or they can take you back, and then they'll do whatever they want around you because they feel like you are desperate. And because they feel offended by what you did, they might take you for granted. So it is important to avoid such situations, to give yourselves space and time to deal with the situation and then come together and discuss where to go. And this is us also women, we like to talk a lot about situations and things, and sometimes it's not a good time to discuss situations. And another thing, going back again to John and Flo, when he left the house, and Flo was also leaving, when she had come to collect her daughter, he gave her a lift. And then he asked her to hang out. And she asked, she said, what do you mean by hang out? And of course, this is a guy who's just had a problem with his wife. He's better off being alone and dealing with this, situation. But he's looking for a hangout. And that's actually not a good idea. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot because we try to replace somebody really quickly with somebody else rather than go and sit with the discomfort of being alone and trying to figure out what happened to his marriage. So that was really important. Another thing that I picked up, maybe that didn't have much of a theme, or maybe related to how Debs really liked Christina, was Gwen. Gwen worked in the restaurant with John, and she idolized John that much that she wanted to adopt his feelings as her own. She loved the guy and how he did life, but she didn't know much about him. And sometimes we do have these attitudes where we see this person and we like them so much for some of the things that we see, without noticing the reason why we like them so much and things that we cannot see. And sometimes it's because there's somebody somewhere back home who we are relating or linking to this person. So that's important to recognize what we do in relationships, why we do it, relationships, work, or anywhere else, and what we need to do differently if what we are doing and why we are doing it is not serving us. Very, very important. So I think that's it from me and Juditha, who's gone now. I hope we continue to work on the quality of our lives. And I hope we continue to look into how we do life and find out why we are doing certain things. Because most of the things that we do, mostly which are unhelpful, we learned them somewhere along our physical trail. And these are behaviors. They don't make us. They don't make us who we are. They are just behaviors, and they can be changed. I hope that was helpful. And I hope you continue to work on the quality of your life before relationships. Thank you so much for watching. Michelle, Juditha, and Edson, and anyone else. See you soon.